What's up, guys? Ronin Man here. This is a quick video. I just want to talk about the cruel crucible that really crushes men in society. Very quick. Okay, so there's an article about Tucker Carlson, and I'm just going to read it. I'm trying to get this 1 minute. Tucker is very titillated by misogyny. Host said some of his staffers theorized that his mother's mistreatment, she abandoned the family when Carlson was 6, engendered a negativity towards women. Okay, so let's see. So I didn't know that his mother left him at 6. So let's look at the effects of absent mothers on abandoned sons, antisocial conduct, emotional issues, juvenile crime. Unpleasant experience can significantly alter children's perception of their relationship with others, leading to a loss of trust in people. Experiences abandonment, feels unwanted, rejected by his own parents, and deals with feelings of worthlessness that can cause shame. I would say, I didn't go too deep into the mother's abandonment because I don't want to make this really an abandonment issue. I just want to say that there is no question that a mother abandoning the family is a very, very traumatic experience at 6 years old. There's just no question. It is a life-changing thing for a child. No question. It's like ripping that person out of your life. I know for a fact that somebody I know very, very dearly, she had a maid when she was living here in Asia, and the maid was part of the role was kind of like a mothering role. So the parents could go out and, go to parties, go to events. They were very high level. They were invited to a lot of things. And so they got a maid, and the maid could cook and clean and take care of the house. And so, not that they were abandoned, they were there, but it's just like whenever they had something that came up, they could leave at any time. They didn't need to get a babysitter. There was a live-in maid who was, very reliable. And the kids, knew her very well, right? She's always there, what do you call it? Ironing clothes, you know what I mean? Like they're just, and I didn't realize at the time the effect of introducing a person like that to a child's life and then taking them away. I didn't understand. I was too young. I didn't have, I shouldn't say I was too young. I was in my 30s, but I didn't understand it. I had never seen it. And I remember I was talking to an older woman, and she said right away, she said, the children are going to get attached to her. And when she's gone, it's going to have a huge effect on the children. And I was like, I took her seriously because this woman is very intelligent. And I was like, oh, thank you. And then that's exactly what happened. When the family moved back home to their home country, the children were utterly distraught because they had been with this woman as like a second mother, living together for most of their lives. For one of the child, it had been her entire life. And she was about 6. And this woman had been in their house. She didn't always spend the night. Usually she would go to her apartment, but she was in the house every day, 6 days a week. I think she worked 6 days a week, at least 5, maybe it was 5. Anyway, she worked like in the house all the time. So when they left Asia, the kids went into a spiral, and unfortunately it had a huge effect on the children. I can't say, you can never say for sure which caused which, but I will say that I think, and everybody that I know that knows them thinks, it was that tearing of the bond of the second mother suddenly out of their lives that disrupted their emotional capacity. That's the best I can use as a non-therapist. It was like right after that, the kids just fell apart and they never got it together. And now I don't want to give too many specifics because I don't want anybody to tie this down to the real people here. But because it's very sad, you know what I mean? Like, even if it was caused by the parents, making that decision, parents don't know everything either, right? They make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? And I'm not saying there's forgiveness, but yeah, I mean, we're all imperfect beings, right? We all do the best we can. That's it. And at the end of the day, I guess no matter what mistakes we make, we're still human beings and we're doing the fucking best we can. Like, as long as you're being honest with your mistakes, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I made this huge mistake. I lost this money. I closed this company. I, deliberately did this thing that I regret. It had a huge effect on my life. Whatever it is, I cheated on a test. If you committed a crime, went to jail, whatever it is, you're just like, okay, I did that thing, right? And then you throw yourself on the mercy of the universe. So I'm not saying the parents are, forever, hunting them down because of this mistake. But I will say this. I believe, in my own experience, I think that the bond of the mother, and it wasn't a mother, but it was like she acted like a mother. And so the severing, even though her real mother was there, had a huge effect on the kids. That's what is so obvious to me. Okay, so when we look at someone like Tucker Carlson, okay, his mom abandoned the family at 6 years old. I would say that is catastrophic. There's no question. And I wanted to talk real quick about abandonment, because these days people mislabel abandonment. For example, there's different definitions for men and women. So when a woman abandons a family, that means that she disappears and she never is around again. Okay. When a man abandons a family, when you call the word abandon, right? It doesn't necessarily mean the same thing, because there's two parts of abandonment for a man. And one is the financial support, and the other one is living with them. In other words, abandonment for a man, definition, is kind of twice as brutal in a way. Because a woman, if she doesn't give any money to the kids and she goes on welfare, whatever, that's not abandonment. Money is not calculated into the term abandonment for women, basically. So men kind of have like double the likelihood, essentially, of being a bad father, abandonment, in most cases. Whereas, and of course there's going to be exceptions, but in general, for women, abandonment means abandonment. I hate when definitions are fucked up, because they're so important, right? The words we use have meaning, right? Abandonment means physically not being there, in my opinion. That's what it means. And then not paying, kids starving is another thing. That's another issue, right? If the mother's rich and the guy's not giving money, they're going to call that abandonment, even though the woman could have plenty of fucking money. So anyway, I digress. But it's just another double standard for men, basically. There's endless double standards, and this is the best example, because Tucker Carlson was abandoned by his own mother. His mother fucking left, okay? And now how do reporters, journalists, how do they usually present this? Let's just look at a boy and a girl. So Tucker Carlson's obviously a boy, right? Still can use that word, I guess. And and so his mother abandoned him at 6. At 6, okay? And it sounds like she never came back. Like that was it. It was severed forever. And we know from any kind of data, we know about all the effects of, parents leaving forever, right? So let's look at quickly how they portray abandonment from my father, okay? Diminished self-concept, compromised physical and emotional security. Children report feeling abandoned when their fathers are not involved, struggling with emotions, and episodic bouts of self-loathing, behavioral problems. Number 2, fathers have more difficulty with social adjustment, are likely to report problems with friendships, manifest behavior problems, may develop a swaggering, intimidating persona in an attempt to disguise their underlying fears, resentments, anxieties, and unhappiness. Truancy, academic performance, dropouts. I mean, it's they go into the details. Reading, mathematics, Children from absence are likely to play truant, excluded from school, academic and qualifications. So they follow it not only in childhood from all these specific things, right, all the way to adulthood, right? Let's go to the next one. Delinquency, youth crime, violent. They have a stat here. 85% of youth in prison have an absent father. Fatherless children are more likely to offend and go to jail as adults. So they cover youth, they cover adulthood, promiscuity and teen pregnancy. Fatherless children are more likely to experience problems with sexual health, greatly likely to have intercourse before the age of 16, contraception, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about basically promiscuity in women. They're looking for that emotional loss, drug use, homelessness, exploitation, physical health problems, mental health disorders. Number 10, life chances. More likely to experience unemployment, have low incomes, remain on social assistance, and experience homelessness. Future relationships, they go into that. Divorce, unions, like even like non-marriage. More likely to have children outside marriage. Mortality, fatherless children more likely to die as children and live an average of 4 years less over a lifespan, right? So these are the details we're hearing about fatherless. When a man abandons a family, right? And yet when a woman abandons a family, like there's much less stuff here. When I look online, there is very little study about this, right? Now, it might be partly because the courts are so biased against men. They give the kids to the women, even if they're drug addicts. Every time I see a woman who like poisoned somebody or committed some terrible crime, I always try to find, and they always say single mother, I always try to find out if I can find the court case documents on that woman, because I never can, because they cover it up. But the thing is what I want to connect the dots on this one is every time there's a criminal mother, they never go back and say, by the way, a judge decided to give full custody to this woman over this man. Like we're talking with criminals here. When a man commits a serious crime, okay, like the M word or whatever, they go deep in his background. They look at every detail of that man and his evilness, and they, right? It's all his fault, right? The woman, they don't. And they also let the family court judges off. I think there should be a new law that family court decisions are public permanently. And you can always see that a man or a woman was awarded custody over another specific person, okay? And that person's LinkedIn or whatever is there, right? The reason why is because there's no accountability in family courts. They say that for the, what do you call it? And what is it called in family courts? It's called, there's a word like for the good of the child. I can't think of the word right now, but there's a sentence. And they always say it all the time in family courts, right? But they never, so then because of it's going to be good for the child, they decide to give it to one person or the other. It's always a woman, right? So they give it to the woman, and then there's no accountability. Like, they never say, well, wait a second, like, are judges making good decisions here? Like, what happens after the court case? No, what they do is they just say, okay, what crime did a woman commit? Okay, she poisoned 12 people. Okay, they try to give her some kind of sentence. They often let women off anyway, no matter what the crime is, especially if they have kids. Because they're like, well, what are the kids going to do? Yeah, she'll never do it again. This was a lifetime feud or some bullshit, right? So it's a system, right? They give the kids to the woman, okay, under the guise that's better for the child. Then the woman does something that's so bad for the kid, it's catastrophic. It is never tied back to the judge and the court case that awarded the kids. It's never brought up again, okay? And the man's background is never checked into in any kind of article. They never say, well, wait a second, like she was a mom. What does that mean? That means a single mom. That means a judge often means that a judge gave her sole custody for the good of the kid, right? They never say, well, wait a second, here. Like this guy is like, like vice president of of this company. He has no criminal record. The judge gave sole custody to this woman, and now she's committed this crime. So we need to go and clean out our family court. Like, we're not doing a good job of deciding who is good and bad. I think that's what needs to happen in family courts. I think that they need to say that humans are just not good at this and give 50-50. That's what they do in Sweden. You get 50-50 and there's no money exchanged. So in Sweden, they just decide that the kid gonna have two lifestyles. Two people are different. One guy's got a Toyota, the woman's got a Rolls Royce. And they say, well, that's probably good for the kid. He's got two different views on life. He doesn't need Rolls Royce everything. He doesn't need Gucci diapers. It will be good for the child to experience two different ways of living, right? Give them more ideas, broader view of life. And anyway, what do kids need? They don't need billions of dollars. Kids don't need mergers and acquisitions. They don't need gold mines. Kids don't need gold-plated toilets, right? So the kid can have two different lifestyles, essentially, right? And it's 50-50, and no money exchanges hands after a divorce. So there's no financial gain. I think that's what we need to do in the West, is that there has to be no financial gain. But also, too, we need to accept the fact that these judges, you could get on the rampage, and I could easily, believe me, about how biased they are and how evil they are. That I think that's true. But I think what society needs to do is say, look, humans are imperfect. We're not very good at judging who's a good parent. We're just not. You just don't know. It's like, it's so complicated. It is so fucking complicated. And it's the same thing, because it's what you're saying is it's going to have a negative impact on the kid's life. And you know that for a fact. And the truth is, we just don't know that much stuff. We don't even know our own actions. The judge has kids, right? They don't even really know if this trip to Italy is really going to be good for the kid. They don't know if this piano lesson is really going to be good for the kid, or if spending that money would be better somewhere. It's so complicated. We just do our fucking best, right? So I think they need to get out of the business of deciding. And also, too, I will add this. There's a precedent for this one, because if you look statistically, at decisions when there's no evidence. So let's just look back at crimes before DNA, So it's a perfect example, because right now we have DNA, we have fingerprints. It's easy to go back and find out if somebody's innocent or guilty. And what they're finding is, when they actually go back, it's scary. What they're finding is judges are just terrible. They're just, if there's DNA evidence, then it's done deal, right? But when there's no evidence, and it's just arguments, he was, disgruntled, so there's a good chance he got angry, and all this. And it turns out the guy's totally innocent. So humans are not good at judging this kind of stuff if there's no facts, right? There's no facts. You're supposed to be innocent till proven guilty, right? And that's the way it is. And what happens is the judges end up just giving somebody a sentence, right? Because they're like, well, we got to close this case, right? We can't have this case open. Why can't they have the case open? If they don't have the guy, if they don't have proof of the guy, then the fucking guys, then they don't have proof of the guy. Life's imperfect. Nobody's perfect. You got to live with the fact that you're not going to find the guy all the time. And people, the public doesn't like it. Fuck the public, right? You're gonna bloodlust, stick usually men in prison for life or for 10 years or whatever, ruin their lives to make the public feel safer, when it's not making them safer at all. Because, like I say, it's usually not the guy, it's another guy, right? It's another girl, somebody else. So judges, are not good at it. I think AI software is going to be better, personally, than humans. Humans are terrible at it, right? I mean, look at your own judgment. You're trying to judge a girlfriend. How many times have you misjudged girls? I've been with hundreds of girls, right? Who knows how many girls I've been with? It could be over 1,000. Who knows? And I'm not good at judging. Okay, it's just impossible. You can't see the dark part of a person's heart. You're gonna make mistakes. I don't care how much experience you have. And you can say, oh, I've had 20 girls and I know better than I learned. And that, if that makes you feel better, you can do that. And maybe here's what happens. Here's what guys do is, let's say they have 20 girls, and then they get a good girl, they get married, everything works out. They say, well, it was my experience that made that work, right? I have this experience, right? And so I made the right decision. I'm wise, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with investments, right? I could see the signs, I could see that this was happening, that was happening. But in reality, if you look at all the guy's stocks, the guy probably is not a great investor, right? There's very few, the Oracle from Omaha, right? A Berkshire Hathaway. There's just very few people like that. Life is so random, and men and women don't like it. That's why we believe in all these religions, is we don't like the fact that life is not guaranteed. It's totally random, and we're not perfect. We don't like that. So we write stories about how we knew. Everybody knows after the fact, right? Everybody knows after the fact. It's Monday morning quarterbacks, or Tuesday, whatever it is, there's a dime a dozen. And I do it and you do it. We all kind of instinctively, I knew. You didn't fucking know, right? Otherwise you would have bought Disney stock back in 1972 or something, right? You would have bought Cisco. You would have bought Microsoft. You would have bought, you would have bought Oracle. You would have bought all these stocks, right? Back in the day. I say Disney because I actually owned Disney stock when I was 10, right? I bought it. I made some money. I got scared and sold it, which was a terrible mistake because it's gone up a million times since then, even though it's plummeted in the last year. For what I was going to get it for, who knows what it is, stock split. You'd have to go back to like 1977 or less or down to see what I was going to buy, what I bought it at. It was I think it was $43 a share, but I don't remember how many splits back. Anyway, which is another good lesson, is long-term thinking, right? So people that bought Bitcoin at 25 cents, like a lot of friends have bought Bitcoin at that price or near that price, they don't care if it goes down to $31,000 a share, a Bitcoin. They don't care. You know why? Because they got it for 25 cents. And they're going to hold it, and they don't care, okay? So these daily traders, guys, and we're not geniuses. Nobody's a genius. That's why you need a system for living. You need a system for eating. You need a system for doing things. If you don't have a system, you're fucked. Because that's the way life works. You need a system. Right? And you need to understand that life is unpredictable. Make the most of every fucking day, right? Anyway, I got to go meet my friend for breakfast, so I'm not gonna finish this one. But I just want to say at the end of this one is that even if a man is abandoned by his mother, suffers extreme trauma, he's labeled. Okay, the effects of that trauma cause him not to trust women, right? That's the scientific fact, okay? And yet it's blamed on the boy. It's blamed on him for life. He's a bad person because he doesn't trust. And so at the end of the day, guys, in the end, it's a crucible to crush you and destroy you. That's the bottom line. It is a crucible. And you have to see it, you have to understand it. And at the same time, you don't want to get in a fucking victim mode because you're not a victim, right? So my goal is to show you transparently what really is happening, and you accept it. Never change your mind once you see reality. You're like, I see it. You know what I mean? Hold on to that. That's what we do when we try to stop, like drinking, for example. You have to remember that last time. Otherwise, you're always going to go back and remember the good times, right? So it's very easy. You know something, but you don't know it, right? And you can't stick with that knowing, right? So part of my videos are to tell you over and over so that you can know, you can think back to the reality of your life and say, no, men are judged. Every single article in the newspaper essentially is painting you as a monster, even if you've been traumatized, even if your mom absolutely disregarded you and you're like a miracle. I would say Tucker Carlson's a miracle. He's a big success. He's one of the 1 in a million, top 1%, despite insane trauma as a kid. I mean, he should be lauded and appreciated. I'm not saying like him and his news and all that. I'm just saying him as a man, like just looking at him as a successful person despite terrible background, right? So you're going to be painted, demonized, destroyed. Your character is going to be attacked for women traumatizing you, men traumatizing you, society, health problems. It doesn't matter. It's got to go like water off a duck's back. You're like, yep, that's the crucible of modern society, you know, and I'm not buying into that. I know it's all biased. Every fucking article, it's absolutely biased. Women, it's like sympathy. Men, it's like blamed for trauma caused by a female. And there's no appreciation of this guy's the 1%. This is like, you know, when Brady gets divorced, Tucker Carlson is like the 1% of men that were abandoned by their mothers at 6 and are now on top of the world. He's like the 1%. Think about that. And still demonized for the effect of the trauma that was on him as a child. Not as a man. He didn't have Fox News when he was 6 years old. He was a little kid, a vulnerable little kid. And his mom abandoned his family and never came back. And there he is at the top. He built his way up, right? You can like him or not like him, but that guy is a major success and he's an aberrant figure. Because most people, like they're saying, they're in jail, they're homeless, they have, you know, and he's like, look at him, he looks great, you know, for his age. And he's kicking ass. And even then, even the 1% are demonized as evil, even when they know that he overcame the evil actions of his own mother at 6 years old. So what chance do you have? It's just the same as Brady getting divorced. He's a 1%er. The people say, oh, you know, you don't have enough money. That's why women treat you like shit. You know, you don't have a nice car. That's why, you know, you're not a 1%. Look at your hair, you know, look at your height. It doesn't matter. Look at Tom Brady. Look at all these top stars. They're all the same. Elon Musk. Elon Musk. Jeff Bezos. It's a crucible. It's a merciless crucible in the West against men. Period. So let it go. You don't have to think about it again. Like you don't have to keep going over it. Just know it's evil. It's a crucible meant to destroy you. There's no mercy. They won't even like care no matter what happened to you. And they won't care how well you do. Society just doesn't care and will constantly try to destroy you. I know that's dark, but it's the truth. And as soon as you accept the truth, you can be free. There's so much good in life because that doesn't influence you. The other person's evil has nothing to do with you. They're evil. Okay, fine. Are you evil? No. You have nothing to do with that, right? If you fuck over your brother, right, then you got guilt. Someone fucks over you, it can hurt like a motherfucker, right? But at the end of the day, search your fucking heart, guys. How do you feel about it? If someone really does something bad to you, yeah, it's bad, yeah, it hurts you, but it's different than when you do it, right? It's separate. It's their actions. They're responsible. I know it's not logically always like that every second of every day, but think about it deeply. It is. Because it's their action. You can't control them. You can't control somebody who leads a government. You can't control the people. They're going to do evil things. And at the end of the day, as a man, what really gets you? It's regret for what you didn't do or for what you did. Because you should, that's that regret. That's what gets you. That's what gets you. Someone else fuck you over. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it affects you. But you know what? You say, especially like a guy like Tucker, you say, I overcame that shit. I was the 1% of guys who got fucked over in that way. And I made it. Fuck yeah. All right, guys. Have a good one.